Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan, Cotto touching bases with Hugh live from Leschi. And I just want to say welcome to everyone for WIAA Primetime. I'm your host, and today marks a special moment, the final episode of the 2024-2025 academic year. It's been a remarkable season full of competition, character, resilience, and growth in the state of Washington. Across our state, student athletes, coaches, activity leaders, and communities have poured their hearts into high school sports and activities. And today we take a breath to reflect and recognize and to also look ahead. And joining us, as always, is the executive director of the WIAA, the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. That's Mick Hoffman. Together, we'll dive into the triumphs and challenges of the past year, what we've learned, and what is on the horizon for the 2025-2026 academic year. Whether you've tuned into the show for one show or all year long, we thank you for being a part of this conversation and about what high school athletics and activities really mean in the lives of student athletes across our state. And so as we close this year with perspective and appreciation, and a small glimpse to the future, which is what leaders do, and Mick Hoffman certainly is one of the great leaders in our community. Let's go ahead and get this show started. And Mick, I just wanted to drop something I'm going to shamelessly promote, and I've got to get a copy of this to you. And you are featured on the back of this, if people can see that, the quote from Mick Hoffman on a book, which I think is going to be really, really special, Mick. I think that Clemente did a really nice job of sharing stories of not only the championship season, but really dealing with the perseverance of sticking with the sport of football last year, ultimately being on a state championship team. And as we've talked about so many times, it's not the stars and it's not out there being on the field sometimes. Sometimes the resilience and sometimes the true lessons are just sticking with it and sticking it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of high school sports, something that's open to every student in some way. There's a no-cut sport that any kid can play. And football's a great example. It takes all kinds of different types of athletes to make a successful team. So, yeah, good for Clemente. You got to be a proud dad on that one.
We are From the Depths is the name of the book, and it is written by Clemente Cotto, my son, who's a junior at Ode High School, about to go into a senior year. And Daniel, you'll be proud. This book was produced by his mom. Let me tell you, Sarah had a lot of creative advisement on this, and thank goodness she did. So great to see you, Mick. How have you been doing?
Doing well. Yep, just we're kind of in that afterglow of spring events. So doing some cleanup on a few things and celebrating others. And now we're already gearing up for next year and a board meeting coming up in a week.
And the workload never stops, I am sure, and you've explained that over the last several years. As we wrap up the 24-25 academic and athletic year and activities year, I want to make sure that all of the people that participate in the activities, whether that's cheerleading and a variety of other opportunities that are out there for our students. What are your biggest takeaways as the executive director from this season across all sports and activities?
Yeah, I mean, we continue to see an increase in participation. Girls wrestling this year exploded. Music continues to thrive. Forensics, the leadership in there is starting to try to reach out and do more outreach to schools, get more schools involved. So we're continuing to see that despite, the budget cuts that some schools are having to go through, and our attendance is continuing to climb. We're again at a 10-year high. So people are interested in playing, participating, and supporting. So for us, we think it's a great time to be working with high school sports.
Mick, I went to the Roosevelt High School's production of Hadestown Friday night. My longtime friends, Will Sanchez and Raquel Sanchez, who came in town, and they worked with me at Fred Hutch when I was here for so many years. And Raquel's gone on to bigger and better things, and she certainly has finished up her PhD, and they have raised a beautiful family, and their daughter Michaela was the lead in that. And They did 2 weeks of productions. Sunday night, they did their final show. And after the show, they give every senior who participated, and this was a big cast this year, and kids who worked on the back end of the production, 3 minutes. And you know how long it is. You know how fitting your time into 3 minutes. It takes me 3 minutes to introduce myself. And they were there until almost 11:30 in the evening, listening to the kids, the impact that being involved in drama had on their lives. And it just we sometimes we tend to focus on athletic. I had the great fortune as a senior in high school to participate in the production of Damn Yankees my senior year. And I tell you, at the end of playing baseball and doing the play, I was exhausted, even as an 18-year-old. It is just so fitting to see the kids and to see their talents displayed on so many different levels. And I just thought it was a real fitting opportunity for the kids at Roosevelt High School, and I'm sure at other places throughout the state of Washington.
Yeah, my career is pretty short, Juan. I tried out for 8th grade play and got handed a hammer, so that pretty much told me about my acting skills. When I was an athletic director, actually, one of my favorite events I ever did is I was an assistant principal at the same time, so we covered all the different after-school events, sports and activities. So my daughter, who was in elementary and then middle school, that was always date night. We would go to one of the productions that I was supervising, and she would be my date and go, just because our family was mostly sports dominated and really wanted them to see something else. My wife was more a musician in that, and we weren't real successful with that, but at least they were exposed to it to where they could appreciate it. So,
one of the cool things when we won a game. We won a game at Highline High School, Mick, and it's usually it seemed like every victory we had was just like down to the wire. And I think I had a couple of extra glasses of Gatorade, but I went in to the band. All I remember was I couldn't hear on our sideline with the band playing and the energy that the band was giving me. When that clock ran 0 and I went across the field and we shook hands and we came in, I went immediately to our band room. And I just said, "Hey, you guys won this football game. If a band has ever won a football game, you guys won this football game tonight." And I went crazy. And I tell you, everyone from the band director to all of the kids playing horns, they went crazy in there and shook my hand. And I think sometimes we forget the impact as coaches, the impact of that and the amount of work that goes into the band and the cheerleading, and they needed to celebrate that victory.
That's a great point. And, athletes go out there and a lot of them compete to be observed and appreciated and show their skills. And the people supporting and involved in that then go compete on their own is very different. My first year coaching basketball at Fort Vancouver High School, we had a really good pep band, and I went down and thanked them for playing there. And the band director, who was very accomplished, I mean, he had Mr. Holland's Opus. He was involved in that to that level. And he said that's the first time a coach had come down there and done it. And it just seems like too often as athletes, that's where that stereotype, I guess, we get caught up in ourselves. And not only do those kids come out and perform to support at the games, but then they're on Saturday mornings, they're going out to their own competitions. They're practicing until 9 o'clock at night. And I don't know about you, but what I know about band camp and that preseason conditioning, that's tougher than any doubles that football teams go through anymore. So, there's a lot. It's incredible the amount of work that people put into the activities. It's unfortunate, that's an area that we talk about long-term strategies for us. We definitely need to do a better job of highlighting that.
Speaking of that, Mick, and Daniel, I'm sorry, I am in a situation where I'm hitting golf balls again, and my lower vertebrae are a little off by the way I sit. So I've got a lumbar support, and this is what I can do. And I hope that I'm propping myself up a little taller. But my lower vertebrae have got to hit the back of this chair. So
don't swing so hard.
I'm definitely going to go hit golf balls tonight too. What moments and performances or student achievements stood out to you, particularly as inspiring or meaningful this year? And I'm not talking about the wins and losses, because that's not what we discuss here. we discuss about the impact. Is there anything that comes to mind that was instrumental in the season, either a coach or a player's performance or an activity performance that you felt really was something that was memorable?
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate that we started off our board meeting today just talking about, what was the greatest thing you saw happen to or for a kid over the last weekend. And all our staff were able to recount one or two just immediately off the cuff of things they saw. But we actually had Chris Egan in the office with King 5 this afternoon, him and Tony. They're going to they want to do something, maybe start streaming the big game each week. And so they're coming in talking about that. And they shared up by Mount Vernon, they have a phenomenal infielder that's going to be, the potential top 10, top 15 pick. And a young man on his team is a senior and blew out his knee and apparently lost his dad not too long ago. And his dad played at Mount Vernon, wore number 9, and Xavier's wears number 9. So he was aware of his teammate enough that he offered his number to his teammate because that was his dad. And Xavier turned it down, and that young man blew his ACL and got an at-bat in the state tournament and jacked one. Wow. His last at-bat in high school. Jacked one. Now, I guess he did one heck of a bat flip and got ejected. Got caught up, and he's still a kid, got caught up in the emotion. But, I mean, what a story that first you have this high school player that is known, right? He's definitely a first-rounder. And he cared enough about his teammate. He stayed home, finished his career at Mount Vernon, stayed home, offered his number up because of the meaning of it to the dad. The teammate respected that so much, didn't take it. And then at the end, I mean, that's movie level stuff. So, that's probably the most beautiful thing about this job is we just run into those stories, right? We just run into them. And how many more of those do we not know? But it's not uncommon for us to come back from an event and somebody have sharing or telling a similar story. So
he is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I am Juan Cotto, Rainier Avenue Radio host and personality. And I have my WIAA attire. I have connections over there, and I was able to get some attire. And I like this, man. I wear my shirts quite a bit, Mick. These are some really cool things. So the WIAA is extremely represented. Of course, when I go to games, I wear this and they let me in.
I pay when I go.
I tell them I know Mick Hoffman and I get in. With all due seriousness, I do pay my fees to go to games. So
yeah, that's great.
But, awesome. You touched on it earlier. Assess for us the health and strength of high school athletics and activities. You say that people are turning out for sports, whether it's wrestling. People are in active and involved, and it seems like we've come back from the pandemic. People are starting to participate again.
Yeah, we've had to expand some tournament brackets from 12 to 16 and 16 to 20 in a variety of sports. We got a proposal going to our board to spread out the bowling tournament because the 1A and 4A levels are growing so fast that we're running out of physical space in the bowling alleys. So, those are great problems. Girls wrestling, exploding. Boys wrestling is continuing to go up. And so girls flag football got passed. So, people are interested in playing and participating. We haven't seen participation numbers yet from our activities, but we know we had equivalent numbers at Central for their spring music contest. So, for us, we're not. Our gates are good. They're holding steady, and streaming numbers are continuing to grow. So people are paying attention. We're getting more hits on our website. People tracking information. So people are curious, interested in watching, and that's great for the kids that are competing.
But I tell you, I have the NFHS package, And I certainly during the football playoffs last year, I was able to watch so many of the different games all through the weekend and see the different teams that would have been potential opponents. Not that Monty Kohler ever needs the help, but it was great. I just Mick, I used to drive all over the state to have to go to those games and watching those games when I was scouting, and to be able to sit in my easy chair and the production quality is incredible. And obviously you get a variety of different broadcasters and different flavor that NFHS works with that provides a kind of a regional or a local feel to that area. But I am really impressed with the broadcast quality. And my wife and I on Friday nights, I mean, we watch a variety of different basketball and football, and we have friends who have volleyball students and track and field, and we're able to see a lot of those different events right here in live.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps people connected to the activities to the high school level. You mentioned the quality of that. Not only have they improved their infrastructure at the NFHS network, but schools are really growing their programs and doing multi-cameras, and it's student led. So again, that separation between athletes and the rest of the student body and all the things and stereotypes we hear, it's a great way to break it down, because the kids doing the production see real value in sports because it's something people want to watch and they get to do what they love. And at the same time, the kids who like to be seen on TV are finding value with the students who aren't athletes, because they're the ones smart enough to figure out how to do all that work while we go out there and kick and hit some balls. So it's a great way to really grow that community and keep fans connected. So, Juan, I don't know if I told you this earlier, but the UW Business School down there, Foster School in the Tacoma branch, their MBA students did a project for us where they went and evaluated does streaming negatively or positively impact your physical gaits. And what we found is it definitely doesn't negatively impact it. We think it's a neutral and another tool resource, for advertising and things, storytelling, if we do a better job as we continue to grow out the support for streaming. So there's, that's future wise. There's a lot of opportunity with that, in addition to being able to watch a lot of kids play.
I mean, I think that's the unfortunate aspect of traditional media right now, or maybe this is the panacea to that. They have to show a return on investment. They've got to go out and sell advertising, and if that doesn't cover it, then of course then it's a lost leader for them. But the way that this has been produced, and you have your user only type of revenue model, and certainly I would hope that this is making a little bit of money for NFHS. I haven't heard about their returns, but I certainly have been a member for a while, and I pay a relatively inexpensive membership every year, as opposed to what I pay monthly for my streaming services and my cable. But it looks to me that this would be something that would enhance high school athletics, and hopefully that's what we're finding out.
Yeah, it's actually a revenue stream for us. To the tune of a couple $100,000 over the course of the year in our revenue share. It's a public-private partnership, which is really where things are going. And, it's only going to continue to grow. And that's why like King 5's getting into streaming now. Big Ten, UW and Oregon, when they jump to the Big Ten, they have to produce streams of all their contests. And it's not just football, basketball. Portland State hired away the guy I worked with that leads our work. Nick down there, he hired him away from Vancouver Schools. He went across the river, and he has one paid staff member, and all the rest are student employees doing the streaming and 4 or 5 camera operations. So there's a future for work in there. And again, that's why we're education based, right? It's not putting it on there and charging $20 a game for a stream. What do you pay? $15, $14 a month? And you can get anything in the country. There's thousands of games on there. You can watch, the biggest football in Texas to the, LeBron's kid down in California and all our kids here in the state of Washington. So, yeah, it's you're going to have a tough time finding a better value than that.
Mick, you travel throughout the state. We know that. We have seen you on the road. We have heard about the different travels that you have. You have the big state meeting coming up here next week. You get a chance to talk to athletic directors. One of the things that I think that we admire about you is that you treat every single level of athletics the same, whether it's a big 4A school or if it's a 1A school or a 1B school, and you do your best to make sure that you're there to offer the help of the WIAA and to get feedback and input. Let me ask you this. What have you received from athletic directors and coaches about this year? And if you could break it down just a little bit, tell us about, maybe the big schools, and also some of the smaller schools and some of the challenges that they face during the whole academic calendar.
Yeah, I think the one challenge everybody's facing is the finance question, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. And, actually I used to get the opportunity to meet with superintendents a lot. We have an advisory committee, and, what they've shared is hey, the money we spend on athletics is an investment, right? They don't see it as an expense. And so those that, because one, it keeps kids connected to school, which in turn, they get paid by the state. So one, there's a financial, and number two, most of them were athletes, or a lot of them were involved in activities. And so they see value. So I think long-term finances, as long as schools, even Marysville, look at what Marysville is going through, they're able to keep their sub-varsity and varsity teams. They may reduce the number of teams in some sports, but they're keeping teams and providing opportunities. So, finances is a big scare, but I don't know if it's going to be as difficult as we think. Really, on the negative side is just the politicizing and weaponizing of, different ideologies through sport. And, we're continuing to see it on a regular basis. We're really trying to stay focused on our kids. And, people have been asking for comments after state track. And our comment is we're going to support all 225,000 of them. Doesn't mean we can give them all what they want. We're going to support them all. And so I think trying to navigate that to not be, get caught up in a political and legal storm and really stay focused on the little things at events. That's probably the negative. The positive is we have more kids playing. We are better connected throughout the state. I'm traveling, but our staff's traveling, our board. We have a great board. We have people who are leaders in their fields, whether they're principals, assistant superintendents, athletic directors, coaches. They are the leaders out there listening and hearing and trying to find creative solutions and bringing that back to their communities. So, I think we are in a great place we've made it through a pandemic. We're making it through these culture wars and political ideological wars. And we're going to come out on the other side of this, and we're going to get back to worrying about transfers and allocations here pretty soon.
Mick, we have about 3 minutes before we go to break, maybe 4, Daniel. And so it's real easy for people who to find. I'm going to go ahead and we'll mark it right here at about 4 minutes towards the middle, so people will find it. And I obviously, someone who not only follows politics, but is a former coach. And once you're a coach, you're always a coach, as you know. When I was at Franklin High School, I coached a transgender athlete and had the opportunity to do that. And when I presented this to our leadership council, which included students from all 4 grades of that particular team that I was coaching, it wasn't an issue with our players. And I felt that it was my responsibility as a coach. My responsibility was to make sure that our culture that we were creating within our team and also hopefully within Franklin's High School was allowing that particular athlete to transition into their life as they have bigger challenges to face going on once they are finished with athletics, which we all understand about our athletes, and we've talked about that so often. The dealing with some of this rhetoric and dealing with some of these issues, how have you been able to really allow the WIAA to come up with the creative ways to make sure that people understand that this is an opportunity to help our children transition into the rest of their lives and not have to face the sometimes really, really difficult rhetoric that we're hearing in regards to students participating in these particular opportunities.
Yeah, we've taken the tactic of number one, just over communicate facts, not get caught in the emotional debate, and to share both sides of the argument. I mean, we had an amendment, and 58.5% of our voting rep assembly voted to change our rule, right? It takes 60%. I mean, we couldn't do it anyway because it's a violation of state law currently. But so, the gender identity transgender athlete issue is very divisive. And so one of the strategies we've taken is to acknowledge both sides. There's not a right or wrong here. Let's keep students at the focus. Let's take care. Let's not make a villain out of any single student or focus hatred or make this a student issue. This is a community issue. This is a cultural issue. And take a look at how do we deal with that? So you can change the law. And if there's a majority of people want to do it, they can go through the initiative process and they can change the law. They can take it through the legal process and get it to the Supreme Court. Washington, D.C. and the legislative process and Olympia have talked about this. And so we're not going to get into the advocacy work. That's not what the WIAA is. We've never been an advocacy group. We advocate for kids. And in this case, we have kids on both sides. And I think the biggest difference we saw this year on this topic is like what you experienced with your students. That's what we saw for years and years. I mean, the adults would be up in arms about it, and the students on the team would be coming together. We're starting to see that change a little bit with students, that where some students are willing to express a different opinion than maybe others on their team. And, part of it could be that we're seeing more students who identify in a gender other than they're born. We're starting to see more competitive athletes who do that. And now you're talking trophies and medals and how that is with sports, right? Doesn't matter what the topic is. You start taking my trophies and medals, ones I want to win, and it becomes a competition. And so what we've tried to do is to acknowledge, yes, we understand there's two sides to this. And at this point, what the bottom line is, we have to follow state law. And so we have taken that. And so both sides are mad at us, which I think is a good thing. And in the interim, we're going to take measures to protect the students who are most vulnerable, the ones who feel something's being taken away as best we can, as well as the student who's just looking for the opportunity to compete as they identify. So I will tell you, it's not an easy one, but we're just trying to be straightforward with it and say, look, our job is to take care of kids, and we must follow the law.
And I think that, and Daniel, hold with us just for a second, that to me is one of the big issues, is that this is, and you touched on several different factors. This is very difficult. This is a whole evolution of our culture right now. And to me, Mick, when I talk to my conservative friends about this or my liberal friends about this, the more simplistic the answer, it is irrelevant to a difficult situation. It isn't just, these are men competing against girls. That certainly is a statement, but that's a very, very, in my opinion, a simplistic statement that really doesn't cover how difficult this situation is. And I'm just wondering, when you and I think you eloquently stated it, we're not advocates, certainly, but we are into the development of our children. That's where our focus should be. And it's a much more complex situation that I think a lot of the rhetoric sometimes speaks to.
Yeah, 100%. And you have your extremists on either side, but at the core of it, a majority of people agree everybody should have the right to participate. What the disagreement is what does that participation look like? And that's what we're continuing to try to help navigate.
Daniel, take us away from your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, on WIAA Primetime, Tuesday afternoon.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
Are you in need of new or gently used clothing? Hope's Community Closet is here to help. We offer a wide range of clothing for men, women, youth, children, and infants. Join us on the fourth Saturday of each month from 12:30 to 4 at the Silent Task Force. We're giving clothing with care, community with heart. Lovely Ladies Lemonade for sale, and shop to the sound of old school soul. Any questions? Contact Alicia Kennedy, Executive Director of Women United at 206-316-7601. 206-316-7601. Come and find the perfect outfit for you and your family. We look forward to seeing you there.
1, 2, get down.
What's up, big and little homies? This is Masvita Maraire, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Metro, King County. This is where you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
My name is BK, International Talent Scout. I'm bringing a brand new show to you called BK Presents. 30 minutes, non-stop, your favorite in gospel music studio session. Going deep into interviews with your favorite artists, producers, and their engineers. You and your concert previews and concert reviews. Get it all on bkpresents.com.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio and Safeway Saturday, June 14th at the Rainier Beach location celebrating Juneteenth. There'll be live music from Alex Dugdale and the Fade Jazz Quartet. Get your face painted by a local artist celebrating freedom through food and fellowship. We'll be there with activities including interviews, and we're going to talk to staff from Safeway as well. Hey, we're going to have raffles, and we'll be giving away Safeway gift cards along with a year's supply of Gain laundry detergent. Phenomenal. And yes, a live remote with me, Tony B. Come on down to Safeway and join us and honor Juneteenth by purchasing Black-owned products on Safeway's shelves like Glory Greens, Glory Foods, and Mrs. Richardson's Toppings. Safeway, doing it big on Saturday, June 14th. You dig? At your Rainier Beach Safeway location.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Welcome back to WIAA Primetime. We're just a little bit behind, not too much behind, never too much behind on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, with the Executive Director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, Mick Hoffman. Obviously, if you were listening to the break, some really, really cool things going on Rainier Avenue Radio, and I think a big event going on at Rainier Beach Safeway, and we hope that those types of things will pull the community together. That's going to be Saturday, June the 14th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., and Rainier Beach Safeway certainly is a community center, and obviously there's a lot of documentation over some of the incidents that have happened over there over the last several years, but it is a place where we go to, as it says here, for the Juneteenth celebration. We celebrate freedom, we celebrate community, and we celebrate a place where we get our food, and Safeway has been a long supporter of Rainier Avenue Radio. So I hope that you will join Tony B, and I hope you will join the Rainier Avenue Radio personalities who will be down there, because this is an important community event down here in Southeast and Central Seattle. Mick Hoffman, student experience and well-being, balancing the demands of academics, athletics, social and emotional well-being in today's environment. I have a 17-year-old young man, and I tell you, he is pressed from the time he wakes up, going to weight training at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then he goes to a study session before school. Then he goes to classes. Then he asks me for a Venmo so he can go over and get a thing of teriyaki. Then he goes back to school. Then he goes to some practice. And then he comes home and he studies, and occasionally he'll want to go and hit balls off of a tee or work on pitching. Then he takes a shower, and then he goes to bed, and the next day he does it all over again. working with our kids who were involved in athletics and activities. We talked about the young people who were involved in band. We talked about the young people who were involved in drama. We talked about the young people who are doing cheer and support. It seems like our teenagers, and I believe it was the same way when we were that age. They have a lot of activities and a lot of things to be accountable for. And how are we looking at that as adults and as coaches and as administrators throughout the state of Washington?
Yeah, this ADs had their state conference not too long ago, and they had a high percent of their speakers actually spoke to these types of topics. There's a lot of conversation around the culture of your team, and then how are you supporting your students, and then specifically to mental health and stress on students. And, if anything, that's one of the good things that came out of the pandemic was this really intense focus on adolescents and their mental health, and that has continued, and that industry has grown quite a bit. So what I'm seeing and hearing, if you go online, we have our coaches school available online right now. Janae James put that together. We have 16 different breakouts that you can get for $60. And, a lot of them are speaking to this. And so it's very, very common for coaches to hear this kind of information. And what I really like that I'm hearing is they're not asking the coaches to be the interventionists. You're the ones who flag it. Like when you see a change in a student, like pay attention to that, and get that information to their parents, get that information to their counselor, and let people check in on them who are the experts in that kind of care. And people are busy. Think about how busy all of us are. Now put that on a student and trying to chase these dreams. And I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy with that.
The stigma of mental health certainly was really, I want to say it was really addressed during the pandemic. And my wife is a therapist, and she was hoping to do 20 hours a week during the pandemic. Her workload skyrocketed. There was telehealth, and I remember the days when we were all here in the house and taking up all of the pipe and fighting over each other, trying to maintain online. And she was dealing with a number of different patients who were really struggling. And it seems like we've been able to at least address some of the issues around mental health. Mental health's focus has certainly become a much greater conversation in our traditional media and in our social media. You have people talking more about it. It's about the maintenance of an individual and for them to feel energetic and productive and positive, and making sure that those issues are addressed either through friendship and conversation, or going and seeking professional help. What progress has been made this year in regards to addressing mental health, burnout, and in my question I asked you about student athletes, but athletes and students in general?
Yeah, again, I think there's a lot more servicing around this, where coaches are taking time in practices to check in with kids. They're sharing strategies where it used to go around. And now they're asking specific questions as kids are warming up and stretching. They're following up. They're conscious of the need to do that. For selfish reasons, the kids are going to perform better. But, I don't think high school coaches, there's a few maybe that are in it for the me and the trophy, but a majority of people aren't doing this work for the pay they get for any reason other than to help young people out. So I think it's become normalized. It's become okay to talk about. It's been okay to talk about struggles. I think Kevin Love was really one of the first big athletes, especially from the Northwest, that really came out and shared those struggles and what it was. And now, in our appeal hearings, we hear about it a lot, and we see a lot of students going in and actually getting services related to that, which can do nothing but good. So I think we have a lot more coaches are giving students time to miss practice, to be able to go take care of themselves, seeing that, that they're still taking care of the whole person, which is part of them being an athlete. So I think it's just become normalized. One of the
areas that Sarah and I have I think it's normal, Mick. I think you probably think it's normal too. It all depends upon the generation. We have certain families at O'Day, and we have certain families that we know. They participate in one sport. They made the decision after 8th grade year, their child was going to play one sport. I am going to play baseball. I am going to focus on basketball. I am going to be a football player. I am going to do golf. And that's all they do. Clemente Cotto, like his parents, he enjoys the sport of football, and Mick, I never push football on him. I don't think you can push football on a student. You either like it or you don't, and that's got to be a decision that comes from internal. And he really enjoys getting yelled at by Monty Kohler and those guys. So bless him, and then that's his thing. And we just support him. But I did have him play other sports. I had him play baseball. I had him play lacrosse. Sarah and I had him run track and field. He is now still an extremely good track and field athlete. And he runs it. And speaking as a glutton for punishment, he runs the 400 meters, which is wow. I don't think I can walk 400 meters these days. And then he does select baseball in the summer. So he's also going to try to mix in a couple of track events because he's trying to break 50 seconds in the 400 meters. So he's got his training. What are we doing to support opportunities for the multi-sport athletes? Certainly, he has to balance his schedule, and we have to make sure that the academics are all coordinated with that. And we certainly have had conversations with him about that. And the quickest way to be a no sport athlete is if your grades aren't good. But what are we doing to make sure that we are giving the multi-sport athletes an opportunity to prepare and succeed?
Yeah, we get pushed a lot for around our out of season coaching rules, but that's why our membership is held steady that coaches can't coach out of season during the school year. During summer, it's wide open. And the reason for that is to allow kids to be kids and try different sports, right? And one, it keeps coaches from having to coach year round. I mean, being out on the court or the fields or what have you. But also it allows a student, the basketball coach can't coach him in the fall, can't coach him in the spring until, basically till Monday. And so that's what we're doing as association in our membership, even though other states have kind of peeled that away. Our membership's held steady on that. They've said that they want to continue to do that. And I think the other piece is that, our athletic directors have a lot of healthy conversations around the culture of their schools and sharing athletes. And, you talked earlier about big schools, small schools. Especially at that small school level, or certain schools that have, less students who have the opportunity to participate, they have to share athletes to have programs. And it's a lot more fun when you have a school-wide program than just one program. Some are going to, hunker down and only look out for themselves. But I think that's, we keep our rules the way they are as long as the membership wants them that way. And then number two is, ADs keep working hard to give kids an opportunity to play multiple sports.
Mick, is this where we are with spring football? We, if you are an athlete who participates in other spring sports, and I've talked to a couple of parents, and they said, what are you going to do? They have kids who really enjoy the sport of baseball, but I said that it's an expectation of the football program at the school that he's at, and we certainly give Clemente the flexibility. He makes his decision to go ahead and do what he does on his schedule, and he communicates with all of the coaches involved. But we're hearing from parents who are like, shouldn't they be out there hitting a ball with a stick, or shouldn't they be running past the finish line? Why do we have to do this? My football coaching brethren will tell you that, we need the 15 days to make sure that they are safe when they come back in the fall. I believe in the state of Oregon, they don't have spring football, if I'm thinking correctly on that, or maybe they have changed that now. But I'm just wondering your perspective in regards to trying to balance that out with this particular sport in particular.
Yeah, the challenge that football's having now is not only do our schools have that 2-week window and then usually want to take their team to camp, but there's these outside football programs. And it used to be a little 7-on-7. Now they're going full on tackle. Mm-hmm. And so, kids are getting exposed to even more contact and play than ever. And there's some really good people out there coaching in the community, and there's some people who, have different motives and experiences and understanding. And so that's actually a conversation right now we're having with the Football Coach Association is, should we expand what the Coach Association does and try to limit some of the contact out of season and do more school-controlled activities. So, that's something I could foresee coming as a request from the membership through the amendment process.
I will say it, and I will back it up with my O'Day brethren. I was shocked to see about maybe 6 weeks ago, David Schwartzel, who's a highly recruited, I believe, lineman. He was playing in one of these games, and he picked up a fumble and went chugging down a field and was tackled by 4 or 5 guys just before he got to the end zone. And it was full contact football. And it was celebrated by a number of O'Day guys, and I was sitting there shaking my head. Geez, I mean, that's I guess there's a commitment there, and I guess the kids want to play. I've always felt that this sport is a wonderful sport. It's such a wonderful teacher, taught for that 4, 5, 6 months that the kids are involved. But when you start playing in the middle of spring, I have my own reservations about that, my own things about that. But if the parents signed off on it, I guess it's okay. But to your point, I think about the kids, and I think about the physical contact that occurs in that particular sport. And I hate to see someone, injure themselves. It's just a part of the game in the middle of spring.
Yeah, well, there's a reason the NFL has created all the rules they have with the limited contact, with OTAs and preseason limiting games and the amount of contact during the season. They've gotten rid of contact in the Pro Bowl. So exposing young people to more contact, I'd like to see the science and the research that supports that's actually helping students. Then on top of it, what we know about repetitive injuries from kids who are, who specialize and are doing the same time, whether it's volleyball with a swing or basketball on the hard court or tennis or pitching with an arm. It's just trying to chase something. The stats don't lie, right? I mean, the numbers are the numbers. 1.3%, and are you increasing or decreasing your chance by exposing a young body to more of that? So, participation. I mean, I love competition. Like I go and golf with my buddies. I am not going to lose unless they're going to beat me. I'm not going to let them win.
Right.
There's research coming out from NFHS that you'll see pretty soon on the value of playing. And I'm going to read right here, but it's like they did Ernst & Young polled 821 high-level executives. 90% of the female executives played sports when they were younger, rising to a staggering 96% in those employed in C-suite positions. Mm-hmm. Now, that's participated. Those weren't the college athletes. Those are people who competed and played in sports. So the value, the lessons learned that you started the show out with, that's what they're going to get. When it becomes work or they're getting hurt and they start missing out on that, they lose all those lifelong benefits that the research shows is making them successful adults.
And also, I mean, from the perspective, and you and I have talked about this so much before because we've dealt with it, the opportunity for jumping into the future and becoming a Division II athlete, a 1AA athlete, a Division I athlete, or for us who've had parents, and I've had a lot of them, their children are going to play professional sports. I spoke to a parent at a University of Washington Husky baseball game. And I guess the practice is now they're having the kids overthrow, so they'll damage the forearm ligament, so they can damage and have the Tommy John surgery now because the arm comes back stronger. And unfortunately, one of the parents I was speaking to, their son is out for the season dealing with the Tommy John surgery. But he said, "Hey, we were hoping for that because it comes back stronger, and he won't have to have the surgery later." And I'm sitting here like, what is the benefit of that? I mean, really, that's what we have to do. We're working to tear our forearm and our ligaments early, so we can prepare for the surgery now, so we won't have to have it later. All in the idea that we're going to make it to the major leagues, and still, if you took all of the athletes who've played Major League Baseball and you put them down there at Safeco Field, you wouldn't even fill up a quarter of the stadium. I mean, it's just one of those things where. I'm wondering if we are, and maybe it's a train that's left a long time ago, Mick. It's just one of those things where I sit back as a parent and a former athlete, and now as a gentleman who's later in his life, and say, wow, this is what this is coming to.
Yeah, I keep hoping that we're getting to that generation of parents who chase that dream that hard, that much. We're that, like my son, he's 30 years old now, and I remember at 10 years old, he's falling asleep in the back seat as we're going from one practice to another, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on? And so we changed some things eventually, and he had a great experience. He's a great father. He's a successful in the world of finance, and in his high school experience and what his coaches taught him. Help him every single day. And he didn't have to go to Duke for that. There's only so many Mr. Flags out there making that kind of money. And to jeopardize or push everything in for such a small chance, maybe better going out to Muckleshoot, putting it all on red and spinning that thing and hoping it hits. So, if you're doing it for the experience, because that's what your family does and it's just for fun, great. But if you're doing it because you expect making it to the show or anywhere else, man, I feel bad for those kids, the pressure they're under. You talk about mental health challenges and stress and pressure. That's a lot of pressure to put on a kid.
It's really interesting because our community recently has developed some of the most talented athletes, certainly in Seattle's history. But when you think about Apollo Banchero and you think about Tari Eason, and then you have people who sit down and tell me that how great a basketball player their child is, and he's 5'11", and it just seems, and the other thing, Mick, it seems like every single sport, these guys you have these guys who are 6'11" now, and they're going through all the plyometrics and the strength and conditioning and the agility drills. They're 6'11", but O'Neal Cruz is playing shortstop now.
Yeah,
and he's throwing the ball from behind third base at 104 miles an hour to first base. Everybody's just becoming Goliath. Yeah. And I wonder if people understand. I mean, this really should be about fun. This really has to be about fun because your child can be very good. I thought I was really, really, really good. Mick, I got my education paid for.
Yeah.
And I just didn't didn't make it to the major leagues.
Yeah.
I didn't even make it to the minor leagues. But is there anything wrong with just being really, really, really good anymore?
No. Chris Egan told another story. Here's another great example. A young man, he got cut at Puyallup High School in basketball, transferred to Rogers, got cut there, decided to be a manager for 2 years, went off to college, was the manager for Bobby Knight, got picked up on the bench as a equipment guy, Larry Bird, ended up in the front office. He's now, I can't remember if he's assistant GM, last name is Carr, C-A-R-R, he said, and he's in the Pacers front office. He's a sports professional who couldn't even make his high school team. And I think Chris said, well, yeah, he's 5'5", right? So, as much as he loved basketball and wanted to be a basketball player, it wasn't going to happen for him. But he's in professional basketball right now. And tell me how many of his high school teammates that made the team that he was the manager of got to play in the NBA. So there's a path for everybody. We just got to figure out what's realistic for us and go for it. And if it pays for your school, great. If it helps you meet your best friend in life, great. If it just gives you memories or skills that you can be a C-suite executive, great. But expecting everything for everybody, not set up for success.
He is Mick Hoffman, and this is your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Mick, what is your message to this year's graduating seniors and the student athletes and leaders returning in 2025-26 as we look at coming back for the ones who are commencing and getting ready to move on in their lives, and the leaders and young people who will be coming back to continue and complete their education next year?
Yeah, I'd say first, take some time to be a kid over the summer. Enjoy time with your friends and family, and then go back to the people who've supported you and show them some love for the people who drove you to those practices, bought you those cleats, paid for those singing lessons. Go back and tell them how much you appreciate them providing the opportunity, and then in turn start providing that opportunity for others. So go help out in a youth league, and while you're doing it, just don't forget to be a kid. I like being a kid every once in a while still too. So you got to unplug and let yourself regroup, and then come back even better and enjoy the ride along the way.
Mick, as we bring the season to WIAA Primetime to a close, I want to take a moment to offer some sincere thanks. First of all, Daniel Bellis, I don't know what we would do without you, our producer, your steady hand, and your quiet excellence and your comments behind the scenes have made this show possible, and we thank you so much. Tony B., whose mission and vision and commitment to community-led media continues to create platforms for voices that matter, and giving so many different opportunities to people in our community, especially young people. Thank you for believing in this particular space, and thank you for allowing us to do it. Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the WIAA, thank you for your time. Your honesty and your leadership have been the heartbeat of this program. Week after week, you've helped us pull back the curtain on what it really takes to guide interscholastic activities in our state. And we thank you for just a great conversation, and we hope people share this. And I know I've shared it with people because you really do take the opportunity to clarify and to give a full look, a full view of these issues going on with our kids in athletics. And of course, Mick, to the WIAA staff members, schools, coaches, athletic directors, and student athletes, thank you for your very, very valuable partnership, your passion, and your trust. This program is about you, and it's about the values you teach and the lives you shape and the communities you build. So now, as we shift from game clocks to the graduation stages, we hope the class of 2025, and we celebrate you. This is your moment, a moment filled with energy, hope, and dreams bigger than scoreboards and trophies. The lessons that you've learned in the huddles, on buses, and under stadium lights will follow you far beyond the athletic field. Your leadership, your resilience, and your belief in what's possible to define the next chapter, not just for you, but the schools and the communities that you take your rightful place in society. Thank you so much for listening and believing and working with us, all of us at WIAA Primetime. From all of us, from Mick, from Daniel to Tony, thank you so much for being a part of it. I look forward to seeing you next fall. And please be safe. Go ahead and go through your activities during the summer. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.